Welcome. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Labs Advisors Live. I like this view better. My name is, although I should have asked first because I didn't know if anybody on the stream had things hidden in their background that I've now just exposed. That could have been really fun.
Possibly just like my alcohol cabinet right there.
Yeah, there we go. My name's Joe McHugh. My partner in crime, Evan, is not here today. He is taking a much needed family break, or maybe it's more stressful. I don't know. Everybody relates to family differently. That being said, I am here with my guest host, the famous or infamous Kelly Cote. How are you, Kelly?
Hi, doing very well and so excited to be here. I don't think I've ever gotten to be on one of these calls before, so this is exciting.
I know Kelly you're still a labs advisor. Kelly was/is a labs advisor who got a job at KWRI. So I don't know. That's kind of a gray area, right? Are you still?
No, it's not a gray area. I'm still a labs advisor. I still get all the emails that you get asking me to test stuff out. I'm 100% still a labs advisor. I'm probably just not a very good one anymore.
I mean, I'm the one in charge of calling you and telling you that you haven't been filling out your surveys. So,
and I haven't gotten any calls from you, so I guess I'm okay.
I know. And our guest host, or not host, our guest teacher today, Noel. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Now, where are you based out of, Noel?
So I'm based out of the Naperville Market Center. We're right outside of the Chicagoland area, western suburbs.
Cool.
Would you be up in like E2P land?
Yeah, we're the heart of E2P, Market Center 55. So
I know what that means from the Keller Williams E2P perspective, but I think, is that what that means here? Like, what are we talking about?
Well, our ownership group is E2P. It's our E2P group. So we have 5 market centers, 2 business centers.
That makes sense. Okay.
Right. He's part of the E2P success group.
Gotcha. All right. I didn't know if that was like coincidentally like an area there that they happened to call that, and it just matched.
You're like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. I was super psyched about that.
Yeah, we play both sides of it because we have entrepreneurial to purposeful, right? Like the one thing. And our ownership team, like we have Pete Economos, who's our operating principal, and we also have Karen Prawl. So it's the E for Economos and the P for Prawl. It's kind of a running joke on E2P.
Very cool. Now, Noel, this is a special one because normally we talk about agent side all the time, and we're going to be talking a little bit about leadership right now. So, what are we talking about? What's going on?
So today we're going to focus really on CommandMC. I do wear many hats. I wear many hats. I'm an agent. I run a small team here out of Naperville. I'm a labs advisor. I'm also our MCTT / technology team leader out of the Naperville Market Center. So we've really been diving deep into CommandMC to try to figure out how do we use this as far as a process and checklist and stuff when we're onboarding agents, doing recruiting, different things like that as well, so we can have further engagement.
Yeah, and I mentioned this kind of in launching this is as an agent. It's cool to know what your market centers are doing or what they can be doing, right? Because this is how they grow your profit share tree. And the better their systems are, especially with communicating with you, the better you guys can work as a team for bringing on agents into Keller Williams, right?
And don't forget, it's CommandMC is not just for profit share and growth, which, hey, I love my profit share every month. Right. It's also just for getting you paid your commissions every month, right? I mean, if you think about CommandMC, it's technically broken up into 8 different sections, but the 2 most popular ones are absolutely recruits and opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
And so you want to specifically talk about what today? The recruiting pipeline, the pipeline. What are we focused on today?
It's really the committed pipeline. It's more of the onboarding experience, right? Okay. We believe it has a big impact on how someone feels like as they get onboarded into our company, right? So we want that experience to be good. We don't want to drop the ball, and we want to have systems and processes behind that.
I love that. If you remember, everybody who's listening, and this is true for everybody and every experience that you're ever going to create, people will remember 4 things in their relationship with you. They will remember the first moment, the last moment, and then in between the best moment and the worst moment.
Yeah.
And if you that first moment, that's to Noel, what you're speaking of right now, make that as absolutely fabulous as possible. And then for future growth, when that relationship is severed, make sure that that's also a very positive experience. And if you've got those two high and a third high, you're 75%, you're good.
I love that. I had a high school biology teacher who would constantly say to the students, you already messed up. You already messed up the first impression. So now like you have to work on the last, right? And I always,
teacher.
Now, yeah, obviously we don't want to mess up the first impression. And yet if you have, the next real thing then is that last, like you were saying, they always remember that last impression and how you left them and how you made them feel. That's huge. That's huge. Awesome. So you want to share your screen?
Sure. Let's do it.
Sorry, I'm new to this. Noel's able to share his screen in here?
Yeah.
Oh, I see now. I see the button at the bottom saying share. This is like behind the scenes. You don't get to see this kind of stuff when you're watching. This is exciting.
Yes. So I definitely, if anybody has questions, as we always say, please leave them in chat. So far, the only comment we had is from Chad. And Chad said, Kelly is my favorite labs advisor.
Oh, Chad, you're like my 7th or 8th favorite labs advisor.
So I'm hurting from that comment because I thought I was his favorite labs advisor, but yeah.
Well, in case this is the first time somebody's ever seeing this recruiting applet and specifically the committed phase, what can you walk us through, Noel? What are we seeing here?
Sure. So right now we're in the recruits applet on the left-hand side here. And then we have these 4 different stages: active recruit, appointment, cultivate, and committed. So what we're really focusing on today is the committed stage, right? Once someone commits to joining the market center as an agent, what does that process look like? Okay. And if you guys are ready, I can dive on in unless you have anything else you want to touch on beforehand.
Yeah. No, that's great. And as agents, you should recognize somewhat what this looks like.
Right, this should look like an opportunity pipeline because that's basically what it is for the market center.
Yeah.
I do just want to point out that those phases across the top, those active recruits, appointments, cultivate, and committed, those are the same for every single market center, including our worldwide location. So if we have anybody watching from worldwide, this is the exact same thing that you have. Apologies, yes, they are still in English. But Noel, you're going to show us how we can actually modify that and edit those to truly make them represent the experience that we want to give our agents. Is that what we're about to dive into?
Correct. Yeah. And like you said, these phases, right? These are our phases. These are the same across the board. We can't edit these phases here, but these stages here are fully editable. We can add as many or as few as we'd like within here. Very similar to opportunities that is on the agent side, right? Now, we've really spent a lot of time kind of piecemealing a lot of stuff together, putting a lot of thought behind what this process should look like. Typically, when you go into the committed section, joined is the very last step, which, as you can see, it's not our last step, right? We moved it way earlier in the process. But just to kind of walk you through what that looks like, right? We have when somebody commits to joining the market center, well, that's when we're in the process of scheduling the onboard, right? So that's our first stage here. We do have different tags that allows us to filter and just.
And did you guys make those tags, or did KW make those tags for you?
We made a lot of them on here. There are some that are that were pre-made on here, but we made our own on here as well. So that way we can just kind of sort and filter and dig through our database and see what we want to see from there.
Again, truly just make this pipeline your pipeline. For
sure. Absolutely. Cool. So, right, initially it's scheduling the onboard, right? And what does that look like? So, we have our checklist on what that looks like. Now, I guess what I should really say is, real estate is done differently in every state. So our process may look a little bit different than somebody in another state as they're going through this onboarding process, right?
Yep.
But initially, when someone's scheduling the onboard, right, we've got just our few steps on what does that look like that we need to get them in place to get them, to the next stage as far as the join in progress, right?
All right. Now, if I'm sitting here, I just want to stop you because if I'm sitting here and I'm like, hold the phone, I don't even have a checklist, let alone a checklist that looks like that. What did you do to make that happen?
Sure, absolutely. So In order to make that happen, and I guess this ties into how we can customize this, these stages and what this looks like. So in the upper right-hand corner here is this Edit Stages button.
Okay.
If you click on Edit Stages, this is where you can add stages. You can go in here, and then this is also where you will access your checklist. So if you click this little pencil, now you can see the checklist that I have here, and I can continue to add or remove items or change the order of these items as well.
And how did you decide that those were the 5 best items to have on the scheduling onboard?
We just really looked at what our current process was, because again, we had a process outside of CommandMC. It was like spreadsheets and notes here and notes there.
Yep.
So we really just went over, what does this look like when we're trying to schedule an onboard, right? And then we kind of built these few items on from here, right? We need to get the agent's information. We need to add them. Our onboarding timeline is a separate spreadsheet that we still use because there's just additional data points that we need to easily reference. So we still utilize that, but that's our first step is adding them to that onboarding timeline. And then again, it's getting all the agent information to agent services, letter of intent, transfer date, things like that. So that way they can put that on the back end. We schedule their enrollment paperwork, right? A time for them to come in and to do the onboarding paperwork. We send out an instructional email, and then we also send out a Google invite for the actual onboard process.
So now I have to ask, do you have smart plan? And I realize we're not talking smart plans today, but this is me just being super curious. Do you have any smart plans set up that will like automatically send out that instructional email for you? I mean, like do any of this for you, or it's still pretty manual today?
It's pretty manual for now. We have explored doing some of the smart plans and stuff like that. So we're in the process of exploring that and seeing how we can implement smart plans into this.
Right. And honestly, I mean, looking at these 5 checklists, this is 4 very manual things that couldn't be on a smart plan necessarily, and one that could, and that's not a smart plan. That's what you have here. So no knocks on you and your team. I was just curious if you guys had done that.
Absolutely. Cool. So, right, this is when we're scheduling the onboard, right? And once we have this done and we have the join in progress, right? That means somebody has filled out their paperwork, but they're not fully in our market center until they sign up with our board, right? Because that prevents, that helps save our agent services time from just onboarding someone, spending all this time onboarding, and maybe they don't realize how expensive the MLS fees are.
I'm just curious because I know that we've got people who are watching this, people who can comment. Could you do me a favor and just type in yes if you've ever had that where somebody's like, I want to join, and then they're like, wait, I need how much money? There's what's a board? What's an MLS? Like, have you ever experienced that before?
Yeah, I see that. I see that all the time. And then what's the end result then be? What we don't really talk about this anymore, but you end up having ghost agents, right? People who have now been logged into the system but never actually joined, and who knows if they get cleared out properly or not, right?
And I guess this is my time to be like putting on my KWRI hat. We absolutely do talk about that.
Okay.
Like I 100%. If anybody watching wants like a roster review or isn't quite even sure how to review your roster, email me, call the MC Angel division, talk to your MCTT or your RTT. We are more than happy to help you go through that and actually set up a plan to make sure that your roster is clean and stays clean using some of these systems that Noel is talking about today.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think it also saves our leadership team a ton of time, because if they're never going to join the board, and then we spent all this time, uploading them into Command and Winmore and everywhere else, then how much time is wasted from the agents that maybe don't join? So we kind of use that as a gatekeeper where we're like, okay, if you want access to everything, when are you joining the board? So then that's where this joined in progress is.
I like that. In my markets or my previous market center, I actually like yours better. I'm like, I wish I'd heard this years ago. We wouldn't give you your key to the office until you joined the board in the MLS and attended new agent orientation. And guess what? We had 100% participation, right?
Yeah, it's funny how that works, huh?
Right, crazy. Yeah. But this is great.
Yeah. So when someone fills out their onboarding paperwork, but they're not yet signed up with the board, right? Then here's some other checklist items that we have, right? Do we have IDFPR completed? Is the enrollment page
on this one? Since I have absolutely no idea what an IDFPR is. And the thing is, I don't have to know though, right?
You don't have to know.
You and the leadership team have to know. You guys are the only ones who see this list.
Yeah, and this is a state specific because so this is the Illinois Department of Finance and Professional License Regulation. So this is where we realtors get their licenses, right? We get them from the IDFPR.
Okay.
So we have to submit paperwork to them and make sure that the licenses get transferred and approved. We want to verify that all the paperwork's 100% complete. We do have a mentorship program here as well. So we send out a mentorship agreement through DocuSign for them to electronically sign. If they're a new agent, if they've closed less than 4 transactions in their career, then they're required to go through mentorship until they reach that 4 transactions.
That makes sense.
So does your team just know that then they'll know what type this is, and either they do it or not, they delete that checklist items? How do you manage those if then type scenarios?
Yeah, so our team will know it based on like tags that we put. So we do communicate that with agent services if they're going to be in mentoring or not.
Yeah.
So they'll know if this is a checklist item or if it just needs to be removed.
Yeah.
But then, we want to make sure that they sign up with the board, they get their MLS ID. We need to put that on file as well. And then the MCA has all that information entered on the back end as well.
And I'm actually of the mindset, and feel free to disagree with me, either of you, but I think you put all the checklist items for kind of all the scenarios because it's easier. And I might even say what scenario they're for personally, like, oh, this is a new agent versus this, because it's easier to just remove those when you put somebody into that section. The same is true for opportunities for agents, right? In their checklist items. Right. It's easy to just remove that. It's harder to remember what to add if you need to add it at a point.
Completely agree. It's way easier to check off an item or say not applicable than it is to try to remember the 14 things that I forgot. The exception to that in my head would be is if you're in a market center that has a wildly different mega team onboarding checklist than you do a new agent checklist, in which case make a new stage and now you've got a whole new custom checklist just for that.
Yeah. And yep.
Cool. So that's like our joined in progress, right? But I think the fun starts happening once they're officially joined, right? Once they join the board.
Yes, that is when the fun starts happening. Yep.
That's when the fun starts happening. So as you can see here, as far as our checklist items, we've got everything.
Look at all those items checked off.
Yeah, setting them up in, KW, their profile, KWLS, their website.
Okay. Am I allowed to give sneak peeks? Not, it won't be a visual sneak peek, but am I allowed to tell secrets on this call, or is this a no secrets call?
So Kelly, you're KWRI, so we defer to you if secrets can be told.
Okay,
absolutely.
You don't get to make that call.
Okay, I was on a call today where I got to see the designs for what future profile looks like. I don't know about you all, but a white pages profile, and a marketing profile, and a connect profile, and then some information that's somehow floating somewhere, but I'm not really sure where it is, but it seems to affect my app. And then my market center's got a profile for me in Winmore, and then also an account edge and possibly an additional system. And maybe if they do texting, it's not Twilio. We are making it so that there's going to be one place where agents can go to completely manage their profiles. The designs look gorgeous. I was like, is this coming on Monday? When do we get this?
I am so excited on that, because I could tell you teaching agents on where to go on some of this stuff. Ooh, headache. Love that.
Absolutely.
Anyway, a little secret for those of you who are watching this.
All right, cool.
So then within our market center, we go in and we set up their marketing profile, right? We have the thought process that if an agent has to do it one time, we need to go and do that for them, right? Instead of counting on them to figure it out. They got enough to learn, especially if it's a brand new agent. So if they have to do it once, we'll go in and set it up. We'll show them how they can update it later on if things change or they want to make some changes themselves. So we set up their marketing profile. We do have a checklist with leadership that's 10 days of touches, right? It's where the entire leadership staff, it's more for the retention and just reaching out to all of our agents in our market center.
I love that.
We have a coaching program, so we add them to a separate coaching spreadsheet that manages that process as well. And when they exit coaching and kind of how their progress is going through that. Our front desk will do an announcement, on social media, through email for all of the agents as well. We send out a Google Calendar invite for a new agent orientation, our morning power-ups, just anything market center related for classes.
Hang on, again, I realize it's off topic and you can tell me to stop if we need to, but what do you do in a morning power-up?
Interesting. So our morning power-ups really started when COVID happened, right? When everything shut down and we couldn't be in the market center, we said we need to figure out a way to still be in front of our agents and to provide value. So we decided during the week, we're going to have a morning power-up where every morning our leadership team hosts a power-up where we talk about all sorts of different things, right? It might be lead generation strategies, about how the market's going. Our operating principal once a week goes over the market stats and really
awesome.
Like that. So yeah, it's a good way to.
If I was in a market center live today, that would be a takeaway for me right now. I'm like, we're starting morning power ups. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's been huge with a lot of agents. Even we have a lot of dual career agents, so a lot of times agents can't physically come into the market center. So we get more people that come onto our morning power ups than when we didn't have them previously, right?
It's so interesting because I've watched offices try to do something like that for years, and Zoom meetings have kind of been the secret sauce to getting agents to actually show up to those, because we want them to all be at their desks lead generating as early as it is, but the reality is not all our agents do that. And yet to jump on a call like that and get psyched, that 100% Zoom has made that a reality for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
I think we just got a question for Noel in the chat from Kimber.
Yeah, so Kimber, friend of the show, Kimber, and former host, current Labs advisor, says, what's your system for assigning these tasks to staff members? Does one staff member add assignments at the start of onboarding agents? So yeah, so I'll let you answer this, but I know you kind of do have the ability to assign things here or through Smart Plans. So how are you doing it?
Yeah, so right now our agent services really is managing the onboarding process. So if there's something that an agent has to do, now our agent services does probably 95% of all these tasks, right? So they're the primary one doing that. If it is something that another member of leadership has to do, you can easily just assign them to another member of leadership. You can set a due date, and then they'll get those reminders as well.
And your ASC is in charge of that.
Correct. Yep. They're in charge.
One person, either they're doing the tasks or they assign the tasks.
Correct. Yep.
Let me ask this question, because I'm very unfamiliar with this, but I do know there are smart plans for CommandMC. And I know, Noel, you said you're not using that at a high level. So maybe, Kelly, you answer this. Could I set up a smart plan where an email goes out maybe one every couple of days from that leadership member or from somewhere that introduces that member of the leadership team to the new agent? So they're not bombarded with all the leadership, but maybe over the course of the next 2 weeks, they're introduced to the MCT team.
You mean like a who's your who spread out over time?
Yeah, exactly.
100%. You can do that. Absolutely.
And now, yeah. So
I have it pulled up here, right? So this is a smart plan. So you can choose the designated agent. So whoever that agent is assigned to, the primary assignee, or I can remove this and say this email or this task always needs to go to this agent. This
is kind of a sneak peek for anybody who's a team member, not a leadership, but a real estate team. This is what smart plans for teams is going to look like, where, hey, one smart plan with all the team members on it, and we can all send out emails. We can all have it come from different accounts, different tasks assigned to different people. Pretty awesome.
Correct. Yeah. So if you have like coaching, like we have multiple mentors, like we have different coaches that work with different agents. So we can do one smart plan. We can send it out. Whoever's assigned to that team member, the email is going to come from them, right? Instead of just from one particular person.
The one thing I do want to add, because you can change assignees, it will check at the time that this step goes out who the assignee is. So I know we have some people possibly in your market center doing the same thing, just based on what you've said. Team leader was probably the assignee on most of your recruits through most of the process. And then they get to this onboarding, what you're talking about, and the ASC takes over. It's possible that the ASC becomes the new assignee. Don't worry, it's going to check who the assignee is before it sends the email. It's not going to send it because the team leader was the assignee 2 months ago.
Yeah, cool.
Correct.
That's cool. So that you could, and what you would basically do is have a task there that says, add this recruit to this smart plan. And now all of a sudden they're getting.
Yeah, that was their 10 touches smart plan, right?
Yeah. 10 day of touches. This is more of a spreadsheet that we divide up our entire roster amongst our leadership team. And then we all take turns taking our portion of the roster to reach out once a month. And we just rotate it so everyone has their turn touching all the agents.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So let's see where we do have so we utilize Google Drive. We have an E2P Google Drive that really
Sorry, I
helps.
lost you guys for a second. I want to say, Noel, I want to challenge you to turn that into a smart plan for your market center and have it be a recurring one so that you can really have everybody reaching out. That would be very cool to see that. One less spreadsheet for everybody to have to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So yeah, like I mentioned, we have a E2P Drive, right? That's all of our 5 market centers, our 2 business centers. Everything is housed in our E2P Drive, our marketing collateral, training videos through Zoom, everything is in there. So we add the agents to our Drive. We send them their login credentials, access to basically everything they need to know within the market center as well. We add them to the email contacts, add them to our copiers. We add them to our group texting platform, our office roster, and then our current employee listing sheet as well. All right, so that's all when they first joined, right? Now this is more of the back end admin type stuff, right? Once we have all the admin stuff done, we then may change which bucket we put them into. So like I mentioned, we have our launch program, which is anyone that sold 4 or less deals, they get put into our launch program for their first 4 transactions.
Okay.
And this is a way that we can keep track of where they're going to be at, right? As we move them through the process, either 0 to 30 days. And then this is really going to help our coaches. So now the coaches come in and they get to see what they need to do, right? Their mentor needs to send them a welcome email. And then they need to send an email that they need to get an initial consultation. They need to shadow 2 open houses before they can host one on their own.
From an operational perspective, do you have the mentors as actually having access to your recruiting pipeline?
Yes.
Or is this, you do? Okay.
Yep. Our coaches have access. They are market center leadership access. So they come in here and they're able to manage this.
Great. So it's not the ASE needs to tell the mentor to make sure to do the initial consultation. The mentor can actually just see this on their checklist. That's
correct.
Great.
Yep. They come in here and then this is now not for the ASC to manage. It's now for the coaches to manage. And then this is how they can mark these items down.
Probably off topic, but how, and I love this. How do you, I'm assuming a mentor just isn't some random agent in that. Is it top producers? Is it ALC members? Like what's your mentor pool?
We've got I believe 5 mentors now in our really launch coaches. So we have 2 productivity coaches, and then we have 4 or 5 launch coaches, which are called the mentorship program.
Okay.
Right. So really a lot of those coaches have been in the top 20%. Some of them have been AOC members. So it really depends. It just, if someone is a good fit for the role, then, we'll bring them to the environment. Obviously they got to know how to teach and train and be patient with a lot of new agents that come in because they're all newbies. Yeah. They don't know what they don't even know. So they have to, be able to walk them through these processes. Cool. But yeah, this is right. Everything that a mentor can do.
How can I get your checklist? Question.
Well, if you send me an email address, I can definitely get them downloaded and emailed.
What's your email address?
Yeah. So my leadership email is going to be Noel Morrero. So NoelMarrero, and that's at e2psuccess.com.
E the number 2? No.
Nope. ETOP.
Okay.
Success.com.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So anything, if you're doing something like a disc profile, KPA, right? Like these should be checklist items to know what has been done and what hasn't, right? We have them bookmark important links within their Google Chrome. So that way they can easily find the MLS, Command, our E2P Success website.
I do also want to say back on that disc, you said possibly KPA. Don't forget that if anybody has done the KPA or disc or anything else, they can actually attach that to the recruit card and it would be available to the mentors at this point. So the mentor absolutely can go and check and they go like, oh, here's the KPA validation. Or, oh, they just did the personality. I still want to get the full one. Everybody on leadership can have access to that. It's pretty cool. I keep saying it's pretty cool today, but I just love this recruiting pipeline. It's
absolutely cool. Right. We talk about what apps they may need. We verify or help them finish completing their marketing profile. We set them up in designs, or we have the mentors set them up in designs, their brand kit, logos, headshots, make sure all that's in place for them.
So this this is a commitment on the mentor's part, right? So
Oh, yeah.
how do you get buy-in? Is there is it is it a production split? Does the market center pay some fees, like, or is it just
Sure.
KW, like being KW? Like what's the buy-in here?
Well, the mentors get a 10% commission off of whatever the agents close in their first 4 transactions. Then they graduate the mentorship program, and they can elect to stay in productivity coaching, or they can just do things on their own and kind of learn at their own pace.
So then who becomes the mentor? Like, let's say, and I know this is for newer agents, but let's say you have an agent come in who's maybe not a brand new agent. They came from, one of the blue companies, but you still need to walk them through all of this, but maybe they don't need the hand holding for the transactions. What do you do in those cases?
Good question. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna bounce around.
Did I just transitional question? Okay, great. I love it when I do that.
Sure. So this is how we can drag them along and check in. And one other thing, just real quick, this is where we can track their closings, because then after their 4th closing, they graduate the program and then they're done, right? But we do their GPS, their 411, 135, everything within here to just get them started.
Again, I'm going to circle back. Because I don't think we explicitly said this. You said joined, right? For most people, that's the last part.
Correct.
And you're basically using that recruit card beyond that point just to be able to manage them. So maybe the associate side, which I know is being worked on and not built out, you're using this tool you have in a way that really works well, so that you can move them beyond that point of that. And I think this is a brilliant use of the technology.
I agree. I think that what you guys have built out here is absolutely amazing.
Awesome. Thanks. But there's different processes, right? That's for a brand new agent or an R1 that sold less than 4 transactions.
Those are the ones who go into launch.
Those are the ones that go into launch. And then once they're done, they'll be in mentoring here, right?
Okay. But if I've done more than 4 deals, but less than 8.
Then we have our R1s here that are not in mentoring. We don't really have checklist items here, but it'll be a way. We still got to finish adding these people in here, because again, the agents we currently have are not in the recruits tab. Right. So anyone that comes from the recruits tab and we put in here, they come back, they'll stay in this R1 just so we can help identify them.
So, and this might be me. I don't want this to be a gotcha moment, but maybe it is. So I apologize ahead of time. Sure. How do you, all those things that you said that you like, make sure they have the email, make sure they have this, all those parts of launch that were not transaction related, but were important. Do you not have checklists for those, or where do you manage those things to make sure those agents are properly onboarded in that regard?
Sure. That's something that, because again, our agent services really does a lot of those checklist items for an agent as they come in, with the board, with the marketing profile, things like that too. We teach classes. I think where we do a little bit more is with our R2s, right? We talk about like red carpet onboarding and what does that look like, because an R2 that comes over is not in the mentorship program. So they don't have a coach or a mentor or somebody guiding them through, unless they join productivity coaching or MAPS coaching or something like that.
Right.
And that's where we have these 2 buckets, right? Because sometimes we have an R2 that's joined, but they're hidden. They haven't fully left their previous brokerage because they're still waiting on some closing.
Okay. That's the don't post this on social media that they've joined.
Exactly. Yeah, they're hidden, and there's still some things that we want to do, which we still have to finish building this one out, but we don't want to lose track of doing some of those things behind the scenes.
Sure.
Now, my role, I also play MCTT role at our market center. So I really work with our R2s that come in. So they're not in mentoring. So now what has to happen for an R2, right? That comes in. So I have this checklist item here, right? We make sure they're set up in white pages, their KW email setup, marketing profile, things like this. We have a Google form that gets sent out. So there's an email that gets sent out to the R2 that says, hey, we're glad to have you. They introduce myself to the R2. And then we schedule a time. Well, they actually have a Google form they fill out that helps me understand their business. And it's really the tech audit, right? It's like, cool, what current CRM do you use? What current e-signature platform? How do you get your business? Is your sphere of influence, pay-per-click? Once they fill that out, I know how to meet with them and how to show them how to use Command based on how they run their business, right? Because there's so many different use cases.
Yeah.
So that's when we schedule our one-on-one. We verify, import their database, make sure the DocuSigns connect. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's such interesting because most of the tech audits I've seen, that's the first part of the conversation, right? Is asking them what they have. You're kind of saving yourself a little bit of time in information gathering. You may still verify some of that over it, but for the most part, you're jumping right into the actual audit. I love that.
Yeah. So the form gets sent out, right? They fill the form out, and then once I meet with them, cool. So now we can discuss how they run their business, and not only how they run it, but how we can incorporate Command to help leverage a lot of that stuff as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. Because I don't want to talk about things, right? When I spend my one-on-one with them, I don't want to talk about things that they're like, I don't farm my neighborhood, right? I do Facebook ads, or I only do my sphere of influence. Okay, cool. So let's spend our time talking about that, so you can just kind of not skip a beat and just kind of jump right in.
That's probably one of the smartest things that you do, is making sure that every conversation you have after that one is going to be pertinent, relevant, and very valuable to your newly brought on agent.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. And then, right, we schedule a follow-up check-in consultation. The ALC sends out, welcome email to our twos that come in, our operating principal, top 5 producers, and then our productivity coach also has a touch within this system as well. Okay. And then after that, then this is where we're kind of keeping track of team members, right? Potential candidates or agents that have joined other teams. They just kind of land here. Joe, we talked about earlier what happens when somebody joins, and it's not like the closed tab within opportunities where they disappear at the end of the month. They kind of sit here, right? So we're hoping that this can transition where once they're joined, then they come into our agent, and then we can manage it there. But
I promise it will
within time.
Cool.
Right. I don't have much more to say than it will. That's it.
We'll be looking forward to that. So, and then I think we'll have to rethink our process, because typically the join stage is the last step in that process. So if this triggers them to now go into the agent field, some of this may transfer over to the agent checklist or whatever that might be.
I'm making a personal commitment to you and everybody else who's watching who has built out these really extensive checklists. I will do what I can with our team to make it super easy to bring those over.
Awesome.
I don't want you guys to have to recreate everything like that. That's not fun.
Not at all. But again, this is a way that we can all have visibility into where our recruits are at, or our current agents that are transitioning, and our agent services can go in there and she can assign, and she can have some overview or management of that, or assign those different tasks, so that way we're not dropping the ball on some agent items as well.
That's awesome.
But that pretty much takes care of
right. I'm like, the audience, any questions? Anybody, something you've seen? Questions, processes, operations.
I don't know how many people joined because of this, but we had a lot of tagging of, I'm assuming, leadership. Okay. So hopefully they will come back and watch this video, because I think there's real value for those people who are tagged.
So for those people who were tagged, if you do have questions, go ahead and put them in chat, and we'll come back to this too, and we'll be able to see your questions and make sure that they get answered.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure you get that answered. You answered all my questions. I mean, like I said to you earlier, I was pretty ignorant to this whole process coming in. What I love that Keller Williams is doing, and what's ultimately is, if you know the opportunity pipeline, you know this, right? And if you're a team leader and know this, you can have conversations with your agents around the opportunity pipeline, right? There's a familiarity there. There was a team leader, and again, I have some knowledge of it, who I was asking me kind of how to use an aspect of this a while ago, and I knew opportunities, but I didn't know this. So I was able to jump in and kind of give him some advice, just because it was so similar. And I love that. I absolutely love that.
And I do want to point out because the way that you guys have it worked, where your ASE is basically in charge of these, and then PC is in charge of those, you haven't needed to really assign those tasks out. But I do want to make sure that anybody who's watching, when you do assign a person and a date to one of those checklist items, it feeds directly into the tasks applet. And that can be a really great place for staff to start every morning with part of your morning, your team huddle, right? When you get together, your stand up, of just reviewing. We can see the entire Market Center's tasks and what's due today and what's past due. And oh, hey, I've got a lot of past due. Joe, can you help me out today? I mean, we can have those kinds of conversations here.
Now,
but you can see a lot of those have no due date. We don't know how late or how ahead or anything on those. So just want to point that out to everybody.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to manually assign like due dates and people, or can that happen like based on time it was added?
Yeah, today you do have to manually add each one. But believe me, that has been a highly requested item.
I was going to say, this is the section where the feature requests start, right? Where we start with that.
Is that this time of the? Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the time of the call. No, we won't do that to you, Kelly. We won't put you on the spot like that.
I'm like, oh, I have a fall call coming in.
We want you to come back, so we're not going to do that to you.
Well, thank you, appreciate that. But yeah, no, we're fully aware that. That's very, very requested by the field. So cool. Thank you to everybody who has participated in our labs and putting things on ideas.kw.com, because that's where we got that one from.
And the flip side to that is, if they do need that now, you could always create a smart plan, right, that has some of those features, and then just make the task
checklist item. Yeah, checklist item number 1 is add to onboarding smart plan. And then add them to the onboarding smart plan, and that will generate your tasks. It will automatically send out emails. It will
auto-assign them.
Tasks. Yeah, and it's auto-assigned and everything with dates, because you set up here, oh, this happens 2 days later, 5 days later. The exact same way that smart plans work inside of agents. Right. However, Noel, if you go all the way to the right for me, all the way to the right, and then scroll down, here you go. Under these tips and rules, if you compare these side by side with the agent version, you will notice some differences. Okay. So I want to make sure that in case we have agents watching, you're right, this is not exactly like yours. Leadership, you have a little bit more latitude.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, on building the smart, if you did want to turn that into a smart plan, right, I can just say, hey, this person Angie always needs to do the first step in this process. And we're going to skip a day, and then there's going to be whoever's next, right? Maybe Karen Prowl is going to be the next.
And then what leadership roles can be assigned to tasks? Like, so people know what
you got: OP, TL, ATL, MCA, AMCA, PC, and Market Center leader.
Okay. So if you're an MC,
anybody.
Yeah. So if you're an MCTT or somebody else, maybe technology or coach or whatever, and the leadership wants to auto assign you a task, would Market Center leader be the best?
Market Center leader is the way to do that, and then just give it like 24 hours after it's been added.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great question.
I don't see any questions in the chat.
Either. Although, hi, Lauren. When she joined in, I was like, oh, I know Lauren. Hi.
Oh yes, Lauren. Who tagged her? Jay, one of the Jays.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
One of the 1,400 J's at this company.
Yes. Well, awesome. I don't have any more questions. Kelly, do you have any more questions for Noel?
No, Noel, you did an amazing job walking us through that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
And Joe, thanks for letting me co-host with you today.
It was fun. Now, normally this is the part of the show where we tell you what's happening next week. But my co-host, who knows what's happening next week, is not here. So Evan, feel free to put in the chat, in the comments.
But other than that, it's a surprise.
Who we will be having next week. Unless we want it to be a surprise, then that's okay too. Otherwise, thank you so much. My name is Joe McHugh. I am from Connecticut. I am a MCTT as well as an agent. It's Sammy Massey is next week, actually. That's what Evan has said. I don't know what topic she's doing, but Sammy's great. So
Sammy's fabulous. All right,
come regardless of the topic. Just be here to see that. Oh. And apparently he's upset that I didn't highlight my question. Fine. Noel, this is for you. Evan wants to know how to groom his hair to look less like a zoo exhibit and more like an immensely handsome Noel.
I'm hoping that I'm not the zoo exhibit in question here and that this was a dig.
No, I think he was comparing his baldness with Noel's baldness.
Yeah. Hair tips. I don't have many, Evan, so I don't know. We'll get together sometime maybe.
Yeah.
I love it.
Cool. Kelly, remind everybody who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Kelly Cote, Market Center Labs Manager at KWRI. Now live in Austin. Email address kelly.cote@kw.com. That's COTE. Any questions or anything we can do to help you?
Kelly is like the best resource I know on all things like leadership. Like she's great. She's awesome at
You're
it.
just saying that because we talk about MCU.
I am just, yes, we do.
Best resource. Best
yes,
resource.
We do talk about Marvel quite a bit. Awesome. Noel, remind us who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, again, Noel Morrero. I'm out of the Chicagoland market, specifically our Naperville Market Center.
Cool.
Wonderful.
And you are an agent. You are a MCTT? No, yes, lab supervisor.
I assume MCTT. My actual role with the Market Center is tech team leader. So
okay.
Technology team leader here.
Ooh, I like that title better.
Yeah, but I wear many hats. It's hard to juggle like our business, our team, MCTT, labs.
But you do it. You do it and you make it look easy.
I'm trying.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
All right. I was just checking to see if there were any last comments. There are none. So awesome.
All right.
Thank you everybody for being here, and we will